All right, great. Hey, a new face, my goodness. How are you? I'm sorry? You're here? Okay. All right, we're in session. Morning, folks.
Good morning, Your Honor. May I pass up a motion that I believe we're going to have to resolve before we go any further?
All right. All right, I've got a motion entitled Motion to Prohibit the State of North Carolina from contending or implying in any way that any of the defendant's attorneys or their representatives either left, planted, or concealed the, quote, dagger, close quote, knife in the 2009 Dodge Durango when it was in their possession from approximately noon on December 14, 2013 until approximately noon on December 16, 2013 in order to avoid the necessity of a mistrial. Okay. When did this get served?
All right, Your Honor, I may need to give you a little history.
When did it get served?
This morning.
Okay, why do we have to hear it right now?
I don't know who the next witness is going to be. If we're going to be getting into the dispute about the search of the vehicles and the discovery of the dagger knife, it needs to be resolved.
Are we going to do that right now?
No.
Okay, I'll hear you when it's. I'll hear you before they put on any evidence with regard to the search of the vehicle. I'm not going to address it right now.
Okay.
It is of no particular concern to me right now. All right. What's your next witness?
Our next witness is Investigator Kim Oreskevich from the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. Everybody ready to go?
Your Honor, this is when some pictures that have a graphic nature that can be shown. That's why I brought out this smaller television so we don't portray it.
Okay.
Projector across the courtroom. I have the pictures that we intend to offer. There's also a DVD that we intend to show. I think 8.5 minutes of. These are the pictures that during the last trial, I know that doesn't have any bearing on this, these are the pictures that we showed in the last trial, and we're excluding the ones that were excluded from the last trial.
Okay.
I'll hand this to Mr. Gaskin.
May I just clarify how we intend to do this? Are we going to do this on this screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And we're not going to be showing them on the big screen?
That's right.
The only thing I intend on showing on the big screen is there's also a schematic that is included in Discovery that we used last time. And it's a drawing of the scene, and I intend on putting that up on the projector screen.
That's fine.
And hand it out to the jury.
All right. With regard to the media coverage of the photographs, the photographs of the body are extremely graphic and just really troubling, and so I don't want them displayed in the media, please. Just out of respect for the deceased. No one should be depicted in any manner in a public way in the way in which this body was found. So I'm directing the media not to photograph or otherwise depict the body any photographs of the body of the deceased. All right, everybody ready to proceed?
Just to be clear, I didn't know if the court wanted to look at the pictures or the DVD that we intend to show that's of the crime scene for 8.5 minutes. The DVD does not, we're going to stop it before it gets to the graphic part, so it's not redundant in any way.
All right, I don't, y'all be heard on the, with regard to any of the photographs or any of that, the nature of any of that? Okay. I recall all that from the last trial, and I don't need to look at it again. I think I was very careful the last trial to exclude a lot of the photographs that were either duplicates or that were so graphic that it just any kind of probative value was greatly outweighed by the prejudicial effect. But those that I did allow, I'm satisfied all did have probative value, and they were not so prejudicial that they would deny due process. All right. Sure. Ask the jurors to come in, please. The discovery and the recovery of the body of the deceased. I have instructed the media that they will not cover this at all, so they will not photograph or otherwise depict the body of the deceased out of respect for Ms. Ackerson. Also, we're going to not depict any of those scenes on this screen. We're going to put them on this screen, on a DVD or something, and move that up to you so that you'll be seeing it all, but it'll limit just the curious onlooker's ability to see anything. And I would just ask you to understand that. That's why we've changed the protocol a little bit. All right, Ms. Ellinger, who's your next witness?
State calls investigator Kim Oreskovich.
Officer, come on up, please. There's a Bible over here. If you remain standing, put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and face the clerk and take your oath, please.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
You may proceed.
Investigator, could you state your name for the court?
Kim Oreskovich.
And how are you employed?
I'm a crime scene investigator with the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office.
And could you explain to the jury where Fort Bend County is?
We're right next to Houston. We join up to Houston on the southwest side.
And how long have you been with the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office?
About 18 years.
And what is your role with the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office?
I'm an investigator within the crime scene unit.
And so what does that mean you do?
I'm sorry?
What does that mean you do?
We get called out to investigate all major crimes within Fort Bend and any other agency that asks for our assistance.
And when you get out to these crime scenes, do you process the crime scenes?
Yes, we process the crime scenes and any evidence that we find connected with that scene.
And when you say process the crime scenes, what does that mean?
We can do fingerprint processing, blood spatter interpretation, ballistics reconstruction, crime scene reconstruction. It's a whole variable things.
Okay. Now back on July 24th of 2011, did you have occasion to investigate a body that was found in Skinner Lane?
Yes.
And at what time did you go out to that scene?
I was initially called around 2:15 that afternoon. I believe I got to the scene about 3:15.
And just to be clear, was that Sunday, July 24th?
Yes, it was.
When you got out to that scene, what did you see?
When I first got there, I was advised to bring a trailer out. I didn't know anything about the scene. I was just told to bring a trailer to the location. When I got there, I noticed that there were several departments there, so I made contact with the detectives from our department and just got a brief on what was going on.
And what did you, I guess after you learned that information from detectives, what was the first thing that you did?
Once I dropped the trailer, then I was advised that I'm going to be going in the boat with the fire department and possibly looking for a body within the creek.
And so at that point, did you go into that creek with that boat?
Yes, we used the fire department's boat.
And what kind of boat was that?
The fire department's?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know the actual name of it, but it's a flat bottom boat and it's got a motor on it.
It had a motor on it?
Yes.
And when you went out into that creek, could you briefly describe for the jury what it looked like?
The creek is, well, that day, July, it's very hot. The humidity was probably around 90-95%. But the creek is 50, maybe 50 feet wide. I don't know the depth of it, but it's good. It's surrounded on tree lines on both sides, and a lot of water lilies are within the creek itself, a lot of vegetation.
And this is the creek that's across the street from Karen Berry's house?
Yes, it's right across the street.
And where is Skinner Lane in relation to Richmond, Texas?
Skinner Lane is just outside the city limits. So if you're talking about the city limits of Richmond, it's 5 minutes from the city limits.
So who was in that boat with you?
It was myself, investigator Jack Clark, a personnel from the Richmond Fire Department, and investigator Tim Oxley.
What was Investigator Oxley's role?
Investigator Oxley was there to protect us from the gators.
When you say gators, are there alligators in creeks in Texas?
Yes.
And how is he to protect you from alligators?
If he saw one approaching us, he was to shoot it.
Did you grow up in, I guess, southeast Texas?
Yes.
Are alligators common in that area of the country?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, can I approach a witness?
You may.
Sir, can I show you what's been marked for identification purposes, the State's Exhibit 131 through 135 and State's Exhibit 154? Could you look at those?
Okay.
And do you recognize those pictures?
Yes, that's pictures of Oyster Creek.
Okay, and is that how Oyster Creek appeared back on July 24th of 2011?
Yes.
All right, this time I'm moving evidence State's Exhibit 131 through 135 and State's Exhibit 154.
That'll be received.
And I'd ask to publish these on this monitor.
You may.
Your Honor, may the witness step down.
She may. Also, you can stand down. Mr. Gaskins, if you want to move around, you can.
And these couple of pictures, Investigator Rescovich, these are not graphic in nature. These are just pictures of water, right?
Yes.
Okay. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 131?
And it's just a photo of the Oyster Creek showing the water lilies and the tree line.
Okay. If you can see State's Exhibit 132. What direction are we looking in this picture, if you remember?
Honestly, with the water lilies, I want to say north, but I'm not sure.
Okay. When you do you recall where you launched this boat in relation to where the landing was near Karen Berry's house?
Yeah, we're about 100 yards, 100 feet maybe from the landing where they would take their boat in.
Okay. And that creek in that area runs north-south pretty much?
The water flow runs from south to north just because of the topography of the land.
Okay. When you first launched your boat into this creek, which direction did you go?
I had them go north following the current.
Okay. And as you proceeded north, did you run into some of these water lilies?
Yes, all over the place.
Okay. Would that make it hard to maneuver in a boat?
Yes, as long as you're not entangled within it, you can maneuver just fine in the boat. But if they start to surround you, you're going to get stuck.
And is this looking, I guess, downriver of Oyster Creek?
Yes.
Okay. And these are the water lilies that you're talking about?
Yes, these are the ones that are stopped up by the sides, but they move, they're free moving within the water, so they could come across the water at any time, just depends on what the current does with them.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 134. Is this further down the creek?
Yes, this is actually further south of the Berry House.
Okay. But originally you started off by going north, is that correct?
That's right.
And 135. And what direction is this looking?
I believe that's right near it's still south of the Berry House, so I believe it's still facing south.
Okay. And to use State's Exhibit 154. And this is, I guess, just another view of that creek.
Yes, the entire creek is pretty much lined with the water lilies.
And is this looking north to where the creek actually is choked with those water lilies?
I believe so, because I think the road is off here on the right.
Okay, so the road's off here to the right and Karen Berry's house is off to the right. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's right.
And the water flows, I guess, away from the viewer in this picture?
Right, it's going north in the direction this photo would be going.
And at a certain point, do those water lilies meet in the middle of that creek and prevent passage, basically?
Yes.
Okay. So you start off in this boat going north towards that area. What happened as you went that direction?
We got to a certain point where the water lilies were crossing the creek to where we could not pass. But since they were crossing it, we wanted to go up and search that area because anything that was in the water would have probably been stopped there as well. So we went up to the edge line of those water lilies, and when we got closer, we saw two white, reddish-looking objects floating on top of the water that were floated up into the water lilies.
Okay. And I hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 140 through 145. If you could look at those. Additionally, State's Exhibit 136. Do you recognize that? And did these all depict the scene as you were out there that July day?
Yes, they do.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the water lilies, the water, and the body as you recovered it?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I'm going to enter State's Exhibit 140 through 145 and State's Exhibit 136.
So be received.
and State's Exhibit 146.
Let me receive.
When you approach I guess this area where the water lilies cross, what was the first thing that came to your attention?
The two objects that were floating up against the water lilies.
And at that time, had you had, I guess, prior law enforcement experience in seeing bodies in water?
Yes.
Okay. How did you attempt to collect those body parts?
When we got close enough to realize what they were, we all carry white sheets within our vehicles just for whatever we need a white sheet for. But through the water, with water recovery, we would dip the sheets into the water and go underneath the object, literally to scoop it up into the entire sheet. So all we had to do was get the edges of the sheet on top and then just pick it up out of the water and put it in the boat.
Okay. And these pictures, these are the ones of graphic nature that depict the body?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm at Published States Exhibit 136 at this time.
You may.
And investigator, what are we looking at in this picture?
It's a single torso, but it's cut in half.
And is that depicted at the bottom of this picture?
Yes.
And is this how the water lilies, I guess, go all the way across that creek to the point that it'd be difficult to get a boat through there?
You couldn't get a boat through there, not with it like that.
Okay. And is that how these body parts appeared as you found it back on July 24th?
Yes, that's before we had moved anything.
So these bent, I guess, water lilies, that's how it appeared that day?
Yes.
Okay. If we could go on to States Exhibit 140. What does this depict?
This is the back of the boat that we were in, and up here is the water lilies that were starting to encompass us, and this was just a clearing. The water lilies were originally here, but with the motor on the boat, it was stirring up the current underneath the lilies, so it was the lilies were starting to come out and surround us. But the photo that you just saw would be right down here at the bottom of this photo, if you were to lay them together.
After you found those two parts of a torso, what else did you find on that creek that day?
Well, not just the two parts, we also found other remains. To me, I thought it was a part of a leg. And then we've also found what I refer to as trash, because we haven't been able to link it, but it's old canisters, old food products. It looks like something that people just thrown into the creek over time.
Okay. And did you collect those materials?
Yes, I collected everything.
Okay. And why did you collect trash that you found in the creek?
With the location to the remains that we found, I had no idea if it was connected to this or not, so I just collect everything and it gives us time to figure out what may be connected and what's not connected to this case.
Appreciate Stacy Exhibit 141. What does this picture depict?
That's the partial leg.
And do you recall where this leg was found in relation to where the torso parts were found?
The torso, from this photo, the torso would be about 30 yards or so up this way. So the leg is about 30 yards south of the torso.
Okay. So the leg appeared to have gotten caught in these water lilies before you get to the downriver part of the torso?
Yes.
Okay. And after you've collected these body materials with the sheet, what did you do with them at that point?
Once we had all three of the remains on the boat, we went back to shore at the landing that's near the Berry House because it was the clearest area and the closest one to where we were at. We offloaded the remains there and took more photos for photo documentation.
Stacy at 143. And what are we looking at in this picture?
And it's part of the torso and the leg is right here.
And which part of the torso are we looking at, if you can tell?
This is the lower half. The name will be here. This would have been the right leg, and this would have been her left leg.
And this is the leg
Part of the leg, yes.
part that you found. If we could show States Exhibit 144. And is this the other piece of the torso that you found?
Yes, this is the top portion of the torso.
And does that reflect, I guess, would the arms be here and here?
Yes, this would have been the right arm, this would have been the left arm, and then the neck and the head would have been here.
And there's cut sites at each one of those locations where it appears the arms and head have been cut off?
Yes, you can see it through the bone.
Stacy's Exhibit 145. Is this the other side of those body parts?
Yes, we regularly turn them over, turn any evidence over to photograph and document the back sides as well.
And is this how these body parts appeared when you pulled them out of the water, or did you clean them off at all?
No, that's exactly how they were when we pulled them out.
Okay. And this body part on the left, that's the top half of the torso,
Yes.
and these are the cut sites, I guess midway through the torso.
Yes, it's right above the navel.
And then the middle part is the, I guess, bottom part of the torso.
Yes.
And then the part on the right is the leg.
Yes.
If we could go to Stacy's Exhibit 146. This is a closer view of that leg
Yes.
part. Okay. And do you know exactly what part of the leg this is?
No, I couldn't tell exactly. To me, I thought it may have been a partial thigh, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
So much detail, I couldn't tell.
Okay. Thank you. Detective, I guess, could you, or investigator, could you take your seat, I guess? Thank you. After you recovered those body parts and brought them over to the bank, what else did you do as part of your investigation on that Sunday?
Well, after my search of the creek, I was on land again, and I was there to assist Investigator Simmons on anything on land that they would need.
And I guess where was the first area of the either Karen Berry's property or this river property that you went?
The first area that I went to?
Yes.
Initially, I was on the front of the home, but I was just waiting for Investigator Simmons to say that he needed assistance. When I first started to go in for assistance, we were doing a walkthrough of the property because I hadn't seen it yet. And from there, I believe we were searching through burn piles.
At some point, did you do, were you there when a video was taken of this property?
Yes.
Okay. You're our confidential witness.
You may.
Investigator, actually, it was been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 186. Do you recognize this? Have you had a chance to review
Yes.
that?
Yes, I've seen it.
And does that video accurately reflect the scene as you saw it back on July 24th of 2011?
Yes, it does.
And when in the day was that video taken versus after you began searching things?
Initially, Investigator Simmons started the video, and he's doing the entire home, the outside of the home, some of the buildings that were on the property as well, and then the back side, or the last part of this video, is from the water recovery.
Okay. The first part, before the water recovery, does that accurately depict the scene as you saw it back on July 24th?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I move to enter State's Exhibit 186 at this point.
Overstood.
And may I publish it via the projector screen?
You may.
is this the cut through, I guess, to that creek from Karen Berry's house?
Yes, it's the clearing area.
And so there's a mowed path down to the creek there.
Yes, they would keep that path mowed down so they could have easy access to the creek in their boat.
Is that Karen Berry's property across the street?
Yes, it is.
What is that we see here in this video?
You have the boat on the left and the creek straight ahead.
And that's not the boat that you went out in, is that correct?
No, that's the Berry's boat.
And that boat appears to be chained up.
Yes.
And that's how you found it that day when you first went to that creek?
Yes.
And that red object right there, here in this boat, was there a red can in there?
Yes, it's an old coffee canister.
Okay. And then at this point, what are we looking at in the front of this boat?
You see the 2 oars, some chain, and some rope.
And there are oars in that boat, there's no motor.
No, there's no motor.
Is that the creek as you saw it that day?
Yes.
With a motor on your boat, were you able to go very far into where those water lilies cross the creek?
You could start to go into the water lilies, but once the current would kick them up and they'd start moving, if they were able to surround you, then they would literally trap you in there because they would get it tied up within the motor and it would kill your motor.
Okay. It would probably be more difficult if you were just rowing into that. Is that correct?
No, rowing would be a lot easier.
Okay. What are we looking at in this section of the video?
It's just part of the clearing next to the boat, and next to the creek.
Is this some of the trash that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, whatever's in the area, we'll try and do a complete documentation with photographs and videography.
Was there also a cooler down in this area of the creek?
Yes. And that's again as you go up that cut through to Karen Berry's property. Yes, it's directly across the street from the home.
Okay, and now at this point, are we walking on Karen Berry's property?
Yes, we had just crossed her fence line, and that's the beginning of her driveway.
And are these the vehicles as they appeared on that property when you first got there on July 24th?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a truck, a red car, and then another truck over here.
Yes.
Off to the right there, is there a field next to that property?
Yes, it's separated by the fence.
And the first building, I guess, on the left, is that Karen Berry's house?
Yes, that's the home.
then there's some other buildings behind the home.
Yes, there's several.
Is there a cooler on this side porch?
Yes, there's one on the porch and also one in the yard area.
Is that another one of those coolers in the backyard right there?
Yes.
This one of those buildings behind Karen Berry's house.
Yes.
Later on, as part of your investigation, did you see some things from this barn?
Yes, some items that were collected out of it.
And could you describe to the jury, is this sort of the washer area over here?
I believe it was. I don't know if they still use it as a washer, but there was a washer back there.
And is that where some towels were collected?
Yes, I believe a green towel and
Does that appear to be a green towel?
yes.
Additionally, was a machete covered out of this area?
Yes, in between some boards that were laid up against the wall.
And is that what this section attempts to show?
Yes. He's trying to show it.
Okay. Back behind these boards, sort of hidden from view, is that where that machete was located?
Yes.
Is this back outside?
Yes.
And so that barn and that other building are to the left of the viewer in this video?
Yes, this is starting to go behind those.
And is there a hog pen area, I guess, to the right?
Yes.
I guess in one of Karen Berry's boys, he would catch feral hogs, is that correct?
Yes, I believe he actually has a company. Critter Catchers, I believe is the name.
Does this show that hog pen?
Yes.
Your Honor,
I'm
objection.
sorry, I'm trying to turn off.
Disregard.
I apologize, Your Honor.
Okay. Be more careful with that.
I apologize. Investigator, after you looked through those scenes, did you attempt to process them?
Process.
The different areas of the house that you found that day?
Yes, we did several areas on the outside of the home. I believe Investigator Simmons was doing the inside.
Okay. And what was the first area that you processed?
I believe I started in one of the burn piles where.
Okay. And what did you seize off one of those piles in that backyard?
It was a green suitcase.
I believe the jury's already seen that suitcase. How did you go about processing that suitcase?
Once we get it back, well, the processing there at the scene is just photography and videography. Once we get it packaged there, we'll bring it back to the lab, and that's what we'll do, whatever processing we determine we need to do on it. I believe we just did swabs on the suitcase.
Okay. After you did those swabs, did you process, were you and Investigator Clark working together and processing the scene?
Yes.
Okay. What were other areas that you processed?
They did the hog pen, another burn pile. They did inside the home. The coolers that were outside, we didn't process there, but we just collected those. And the machete from the barn, the towel.
Okay. And later, did you take pictures of those areas? I mean, those items as you processed them?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, coverage witness.
You may.
Can I show you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 155 through 160, if we could start with those. Are those some of those items that you seized as part of your investigation?
Yes.
Those depict the coolers. Is that the 120 quart cooler?
Yes, these are.
Okay. I'll show you State's Exhibit 161 through 167. Are those more pictures of your processing?
Yes.
Okay, if you could look through those. Are those more pictures of the boat as it was processed and the other cooler?
Yes, it's both coolers and the boat.
Okay, Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit 155 through 160 and 161 to 167.
Well, be received.
And Investigator, could you explain to the jury how, I guess after you seize these coolers, which they've already seen, how you go about processing them to determine if there's any latent evidence on them?
For latent evidence, if you're talking about fingerprints, we just use the black fingerprint powder, and you just spread that out, and if there's fingerprints, then you'll see the ridges formation with the powder. Latent blood processing we do with a chemical called Blue Star.
And could you explain how you use Blue Star?
Blue Star is 2 parts. You just mix the 2 parts together inside their spray bottle with water. And once those are completely mixed, you just spray it on the item of whatever it is that you're processing. If you get a positive reaction, it'll turn blue.
Your Honor, I published State's Exhibit 155 at this time.
You may.
And is that the picture of that 120 quart cooler that this jury's already seen?
Yes.
Okay. And is that how it appeared that day, back before you put the fingerprint powder on it?
Yes, that's exactly how it was when we took it off the property.
Okay. Appears like it has some sort of vegetation in there. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Was there anything else that was found inside?
This one, no.
to see. I guess in this picture, is there a glowing blue streak right here?
Yes.
And is this a picture of the boat that you processed?
Yes.
What is that? Why, first of all, how do you go about using this blue star?
You just dim the lights. It doesn't have to be completely dark. So you just dim the lights a little bit. And then when you spray the blue star, if there's a reaction, it'll turn that color blue right there.
And I show you State's Exhibit 158. Is that, again, that glowing blue that you mentioned?
Yes.
So after you get some glowing, I guess, in the area, what do you do next to try to preserve the samples?
Once you see the reaction, we mark it with a Sharpie marker. We just outline it so when we turn the lights back on and the illumination is stopped, we know the area to come back to for more processing.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 160. Is that, again, did you try to document with pictures every area that there was glowing?
Yes.
And I'll show you State's Exhibit 162. What are we looking at in this picture?
It's the outside of the boat, and the black marks that you see going down the outside, that's the Sharpie. So the area in between the two Sharpie lines is the positive reaction under the blue star.
Show you State's Exhibit 163. Is that the other cooler?
Yes, that's the smaller one.
Okay. And showing you State's Exhibit 164, that's how it appeared back on July 24th of 2011?
Yes.
And where is this processing being done?
This particular one here is being done in our lab at the sheriff's office.
So after you, I guess, finished searching the scene, did you take all the evidence back to a secure location?
Yes, the smaller items we would take to the lab, obviously because we could fit them. The larger items, we have a processing building that's located just behind our sheriff's office. And we take the larger items back there, like the boat and the furniture and things like that.
Okay. Show you State's Exhibit 165. Is that the inside of that other cooler?
Yes.
And that cooler, is that how it appeared back on July 24th of 2011?
Yes.
So did you find anything inside of there?
I believe we found some more vegetation and I think a strand of hair.
Okay. And did you seize that hair?
Yes, it was collected.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 166. Is this those coolers, I guess, as they appear now with all the fingerprint dust on there?
Yes.
And were you able to collect any fingerprints off of them?
No, we did not get any prints from either one of them.
The material that I guess a cooler is made of, is that hard to get fingerprints off of?
Yes, it's very textured.
And here's State's Exhibit 167. Is that, again, the inside of that cooler with fingerprint powder?
Yes.
So before you processed these coolers, they were very, very clean. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely, yeah.
They look pretty new.
To me, they look brand new.
Got a coverage witness.
You may.
Investigator, actually, what's marked is State's Exhibit 169 and been entered into evidence. Is this one of the coolers that you found back on that July day?
Yes.
And the 120 quart cooler that I guess is against that wall, that's the other cooler that you found that day?
Yes, probably.
Well, why don't you just have her go over and look at it, okay? Rather than moving the cooler around.
Yes, it's the same one.
After you looked at those coolers, did you process any other parts of the scene? And the boat, I guess. Aside from the boat and the coolers, did you process any other part of the scene?
Actually out the scene or evidence from the scene?
I guess when you were at the scene, did you process any other parts, take swabs of anything, or look at any other parts of the scene?
I believe we took soil samples from the hog pen. We got some evidence out of the hog pen. I believe we took swabs off of a wire fencing from the hog pen.
Your Honor, first witness.
You may.
I'll show you what's been marked for the application. This is the state's bid at 241. Looking 241. Looking in here, what do you see?
It's the wire fencing
Okay, and where was this wire fencing found on Karen Berry's property?
at the hog pen.
Okay, and why was it seized?
At the scene, we observed what we thought may be tissue stuck to the wire fencing, so we took it to collect that tissue in a more controlled environment.
Okay, and could you describe when you say tissue, what did it look like?
I'd have to look at the photos again.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't remember.
Okay, is this the wire fencing that you seized back on July 24th from that property?
Yes, that's the one we got.
Your Honor, at this time I move to enter state's bid at 241.
All right, let 241 be received.
Your Honor, first witness.
You may.
And investigator, this has been entered as State's Exhibit 177. If you go look in here, is that the machete that you found?
Yes.
And who actually took it out from behind those boards?
Investigator Simmons.
Okay, and then it was packaged and preserved for y'all to take swabs and do whatever you do to process the scene?
Yes, it would be packaged there, and then once at the lab, after processing, we would repackage it again.
Okay. Investigator, I hand you what's marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit A71. Do you recognize that?
May I open it?
Yes.
Yes, these are the swabs that I took.
And where are those swabs from, specifically with State's Exhibit A171?
This one is from the handles of the 75 quart cooler.
Okay, and that's A171A.
Yes.
Okay, and then where's A171B from?
This one is from the part of the 75 quart cooler that reacted with the blue star. So it's the bottom front edge of the cooler because there was a reaction.
Looking at A170, are these more swabs that you took from a cooler?
Yes, they're from the larger cooler.
Okay, that 120 quart cooler that we just looked at?
Yes.
Okay. State's Exhibit A170A, where's that one from?
This one is from the right side of the large cooler.
Okay, and A170B, where's that from?
This one is from the spigot from the cooler.
Okay. Looking at State's Exhibit A172, is this a swab from the coffee canister in the boat? Does that appear to be
Yes.
okay? And you collected that swab from the coffee canister?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Looking at State's Exhibit A173, are these two swabs from the boat oar marked as 173A and 173B?
Yes, it's from the boat oar that we marked as number 1.
Okay, and 173A, is that from, what area of boat oar number 1 was that from?
This is from the grip of the oar.
And 173B, what area of the boat oar number 1?
That's from the top handle of the oar.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 174, are these swabs from the hook on the chain on the boat?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All these swabs were collected by either you or another investigator at the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department in processing this boat and these coolers?
Yes, it'd be by me, Investigator Jack Clark, and Investigator Simmons.
And are they all packaged? How do you package them? If you could explain, Jerry, with these swabs using the State's Exhibit 170A, it appears to be a little box. Is that correct?
Yes, this is a typical swab box, but this packaging was not ours.
Okay.
It's been changed.
And that appears to be from the Raleigh Police Department?
Yes, they just put it into their evidence envelopes, that's all.
And additionally, on some of these swabs, is there a barcode that indicates North Carolina State Crime Lab?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit 170 through 174 and all of their contents.
So moved, received.
Investigator, I'll show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit A176. I guess just briefly looking inside here, do those appear to be swabs collected from the second boat oar?
Yes, they both are.
And 176A, which where on the boat oar is that from?
76A is from the grip of the oar, and I'm sorry, did you ask about 176?
Yeah, what's 176B?
176B is from the top of the handle of the oar.
Okay. Showing you State's Exhibit 178. Are these 3 swabs from the Machete that was found?
Yes.
And could you describe where swabs A, B, and C are from?
C is from the metal of the handle that's under the plastic grips. So we took the plastic grips off and swabbed the metal that's under those grips. B is from the exterior side of the handle around the plastic grips. And A is from the blade of the machete.
Looking at State's Exhibit A175. Does that appear to be 17 swabs from the boat?
Yes.
And each one of these swabs, are they on the actual swabs, does it enumerate exactly where they're from?
Yes, they do.
Did you take those swabs from the book?
Yes, I did.
On each one of those boxes, you wrote where it was from?
Yes, each one will be labeled with the case number, date and time, my initials, and the exact location of where the swabs came from.
State's Exhibit 179, do you recognize this?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the vegetation and the hair that we found inside the cooler.
Okay. And you seized that out of an abundance of caution?
Yes.
Okay. Because you thought that it might have some relevance based on what was found inside the cooler?
Based on the details of the scene, it could have relevance, absolutely.
Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit A176, A178, A175, and A179.
Loan be received.
Investigator, could you briefly describe that hog pen that we saw part of in the video? You mentioned that you took some soil samples from there?
Yes, Investigator Simmons.
Okay, he took those samples?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Investigator, actually it was marked State's Exhibit A185 for identification purposes. Could you open that up and look inside? And what is that?
It's a swab that was collected from that fencing.
And that was the fencing that we just looked at that was up here?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you go about swabbing that fencing?
We just get the sterile Q-tip, we put some distilled water on it, and then the area that you're interested in, you just swab it.
Why did you take it from that fencing?
It's from the area that I believe the tissue and evidence was found on.
And why do you believe that it was, how did that fencing appear to you when you first saw it? Did it look like brand new fencing to you?
No, it looked just like that. It was just rolled up and just looks like it's on the side.
And this area where you say that there appeared to be tissue, is it some sort of like drop, or how did it appear to you?
I'd have to look at the photos again. I don't remember that specific.
But that's the swab that you took from that area of the fencing?
Yes.
Okay. And then I show you State's Exhibit, I believe it's already been entered in that, it's the State's Exhibit 231. Do you recognize these straps?
Yes, they're tie downs.
And did you find those on that property as well?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit A185 and A231 if it's not already in evidence.
Loan be received.
Investigator, I think it's been marked as State's Exhibit 149, 150 through 152, and State's Exhibit 153. Do you recognize these pictures?
Yes.
And what are those pictures of?
2 are of the machete, 2 are the boat oars, and 1 is from the furniture with the blankets around it.
And the furniture, was that collected at the scene?
Yes.
And could you briefly describe what that piece of furniture looked like?
It looked like an old hutch, and it had some U-Haul blankets wrapped around them.
Okay, so that was seized from Karen Berry's property and taken back to your processing area,
Yes.
along with the machete and the boat oars?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time I move to enter State's Exhibit 149 through 153.
Let me receive.
Am I published those at this time?
You may.
Looking at State's Exhibit 149, is that how that machete appeared back in July 24th of 2011?
Yes.
And to be clear, it wasn't in any pieces.
I'm sorry?
It wasn't broken in any way. It was a whole
No.
machete.
Yes, it was complete.
Machete State's Exhibit 152. Is that another view of that machete?
Yes.
This is State's Exhibit 151. Sorry, the last picture of State's Exhibit 150. This is State's Exhibit 151. Is that one of those boat oars that you mentioned?
Yes.
And I believe there's a little laser pointer up there, but could you point to where the swabs were taken off there? There's a button on the...
The one that says it's from the rubber grips would be from this area, and then the one from the top of the handle would be from this handle.
Why did you take the swabs from those areas?
That's where you're most likely to hold the object.
State's Exhibit 152. Is that the other oar?
Yes.
Okay. And again, did you take swabs from the same sorts of places?
Yes.
Now, State's Exhibit 153. Could you describe what this is?
It's part of the hutch that's covered up in the blankets. Well, it's actually 2 pieces. You have this piece right here, and then the top piece that's behind it right here, completely covered.
Okay. And could you move that by yourself?
No.
Did you help, I guess, put that on your trailer to take it back to the processing area?
Not at the scene. The guys did that. Once we get to the building, that's where I came in.
It appeared to be pretty heavy.
Yes.
And just to be clear, this piece, is this one piece of the hutch and then there's another piece wrapped in blankets behind it?
Yes.
That back piece, I guess, is it made of some sort of slate or is it heavy?
Yes, it's very heavy. The wood is solid, and I believe some of the shelvings or the separation piece appeared to be either slate or marble. I don't remember which, but all 3 pieces were heavy.
Your Honor, may I approach the clerk?
You may.
Eric, can I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Crashay was marked as State's Exhibit A234 and already admitted as A235. If you look at A234, if you look inside here, is that, what do you see inside there?
I'm sorry. It's a green towel wrapped in paper.
Okay. And is that the green towel that you saw in that video?
I believe that's the one in the shed.
Okay. And was there also a gray towel seized from that barn?
Yes.
And I guess the gray towel that's previously been admitted as State's Exhibit A235. The green towel, State's Exhibit A234, is this what was seized that day on July 24th?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit A234.
Let them be pursued.
To be clear, the soil samples, you didn't collect those.
No, Investigator Simmons actually did the collection.
Do you know why the soil samples were collected?
Yes, because we found signs of possible acid. We found the boxes and the muriatic acid. And the soil, I believe that day in that area was a different color, like something to be poured onto it. So I believe that's why Jay said he took some of the soil samples to see if we could figure out why that area was different.
Did you also process a U-Haul trailer?
Yes.
And where was that U-Haul trailer?
We received it from the Harris County Sheriff's Office from their one of their impound lots downtown Houston.
And where is Harris County?
Harris County is the county that encompasses the city of Houston.
And did you bring that trailer, I guess, back to the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, we picked it up from their impound lot and brought it to ours.
And how did the inside of that U-Haul trailer appear to you?
It was clean.
Did you take some swabs out of there?
Yes, we took several swabs. I believe we found another hair strand, and I don't believe we found any fingerprints.
Your Honor, approach clerk.
All right.
Investigator, I hand you this memorial to State's Exhibit A184 for identification purposes. Looking inside there, can you tell the jury what you find? Are there a whole bunch of swabs in there?
There's 6.
And where are those swabs from?
These are from the trailer. This one's from the large cooler.
Okay. If we can put this State's Exhibit 170C, that's from State's Exhibit 170 that were swabs from that cooler?
Yes.
Okay. These 6 swabs, are these all from the U-Haul trailer?
Yes, those 6 are.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I move to enter State's Exhibit 184.
The 184 be received.
And Investigator, previously, did you testify in another hearing concerning this case?
Yes.
And at that time, were all these evidence items sealed?
Yes, they were in the packaging that we had originally packaged them. They've been transferred into the North Carolina packages now.
Okay, and then there appear to be initials on these packages from where these items have been sealed at various times?
Yes, it's standard procedure. Anytime you open a piece of evidence and you reseal it, whoever is resealing it will put their initials across the tape so you can tell if it's been opened since then or...
Sure. And somehow State's Exhibit 170C from that prior hearing made its way into State's Exhibit 184 with swabs that are from the U-Haul. Is that correct?
Yes, but these are sealed with our evidence tape still.
Okay.
So
They haven't been opened since then, is that correct?
they've opened it for processing. You can see the lab tech's initials and date and stuff, and then he or she secured it with clear tape over our evidence tape. So
Okay.
it's been opened at least once.
Okay. Since Where the lab tech's initials are, that's over the tape, so you could tell if the tape's been taken off?
Yes.
And that appears to still be the person's initials.
Yes, and that's standard procedure as well.
Okay. So State's Exhibit 184 are the 6 swabs, and then somehow State's Exhibit 170C, which is one of the swabs from the cooler, made its way into State's Exhibit 184.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I move to enter State's Exhibit 170C.
Will be received.
State's Exhibit 236, could you look inside there? Is that an item that was seized from Karen Berry's property back on July 24th?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that?
It's the top part for the gloves.
Okay, and was that found in that hog pen?
I believe so.
Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit 236 into evidence.
Will be received.
Investigator, if you could you hold that up for the jury and just indicate what it is?
It's the cardboard part from a package of gloves.
This exhibit, State's Exhibit 182, could you look inside there? And what does that appear to be?
It's the piece of plastic from the plastic bag.
Okay. And do you recall where that was found?
This one was either, I'd have to look at the report, but I think it's inside the hog pen.
Okay. And did you seize that as part of your investigation that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit A182.
Will be received.
State's Exhibit A183, does this appear to be some material that was collected from inside the U-Haul trailer?
Yes, it was the hair strand.
And is that a hair strand that you seized back when that trailer was processed?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit 183.
Let 183 be received.
And investigator, just to be clear, you take these swabs and you collect these materials, and then do you yourself test them?
No, we'll send them off to a lab, either a state lab or whichever lab it is that we're going to use, and that's where your chemists and your DNA techs and stuff are at, and they're the ones who actually do the analytical part of what this evidence is.
And based on the notations on these items, have you seen this North Carolina State Crime Lab barcode on many objects?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if these were tested in Texas?
They were not tested in Texas.
They're given to the Raleigh Police Department and Detective Dexter Gill to bring back to Raleigh.
Yes, I released everything to him.
State's Exhibit 180, if you could look in there. Is that a hair that was collected from the top of that gray blanket that was on top of the hutch?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I move to enter State's Exhibit 180.
Will be received.
Have one moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Grace residence?
Yes.
Do you recall what, if anything, was inside that suitcase?
I'd have to refer to the notes.
If you could. When you say your notes, is that up there?
My
with
report,
do your
yes.
report that you make as part of your investigation into a case?
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry, I just found it. There's 4 pairs of women's panties inside the suitcase.
Going back to the boat and using that Blue Star material, you mentioned that you put the Blue Star down and it, I guess, illuminates, and then is that the area that you take the swabs?
Yes,
And then how do you, each swab, do you write on it where it was taken from?
on the box, yes.
And then additionally on the boat, do you write on the boat as well? Did you draw circles or anything on there?
We outlined the positive areas with Sharpies.
Okay, and that's how you knew where to swab from?
Yes.
After you did that, and after you seized all this evidence that's been in front of this jury today, did you have any further investigation into this case?
After the trailer, I believe the trailer was the last collection, and then all the processing. Other than that, no, except for final release to Detective Gill.
Okay, and so after you seized all this evidence, the coolers, all this, the machete, oars, all this stuff, you swabbed them, you put fingerprint powder on them, and then did you turn them over to Detective Gill to bring back to Raleigh?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, nothing further.
Do you have questions?
Yes, Sharon. I'm having a little trouble with your name. I apologize. Would you pronounce it for me?
Areskovich?
Thank you, ma'am. Do you have the machete up there with you now?
No, not here.
May
It's
I
behind you.
try to find it?
It's behind you.
Hold on. Now, President,
Yes, sir.
would you remove the machete from the case? Would you hold it up so we can see it? Ma'am, that's not something you would agree to let anyone strike you with, is it?
No.
Thank you. Let me ask you put that back down. You talked about the substance, Blue Star. Is that also referred to as luminol?
No, they're 2 separate chemicals.
2 separate chemicals. Do they have the same purpose?
Yes.
And in essence, what you're doing is mixing chemicals together and spraying an area in a dim light or darkness to determine if there is any preliminary indication of the presence of blood, right?
Yes, it's a presumptive test.
It's not conclusive by any means, is it?
No.
And for example, you indicated that you sprayed luminol in the boat.
We sprayed Blue Star in the boat.
I'm sorry, Blue Star, and that there were some spots that gave you a preliminary indication for the presence of blood.
Right.
Now, if that whole boat had glowed blue in the dark, that would have given you a preliminary indication of a lot of blood, wouldn't it?
It could be blood. Yes, I mean, if the entire boat had illuminated, it would be a substantial amount of, yes, presumptive.
But it could also be a lot of other things, couldn't it?
Blue Star reacts with blood, some chemicals, detergents, things like that. It just depends. I can't name them all because I don't know them all, but it reacts with other chemicals, yes.
And that's why you call it a preliminary test. It's an investigative tool, isn't it?
Yes, it's just to visualize something that we can't see. So it visualizes latent blood.
And what the reason it glows blue is because the substances react into something that has iron in it, correct?
I don't know if the Blue Star reacts with the iron or maybe proteins within the blood. I'd have to look it up again to see.
At any rate, once you have that reaction that you can see in the dark, what that does is gives you some idea for where the areas are that you should test to determine if they are in fact blood or are they something else, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the substance that you use to make that final determination is phenolphthalein. Am I correct?
That's one of your presumptives tests for blood. At Fort Bend, we don't use phenolphthalein, we use hemidant.
I see. But phenolphthalein is one of the chemicals that you can use to determine if what was glowing is blood or something else.
Yes, there's several.
And for example, in this case, you were able to test those little blue spots with the other chemical that you referred to determine whether they were blood or whether they were something else too.
No, we did not.
Oh, you didn't test them?
We did not do a presumptive test for actual blood, no.
You just did you do any further testing at all?
No, the Blue Star is blue when it has a reaction, and the hemidant that we have at our agency, when it gives a positive result for blood, is also blue. So because of the Blue Star being blue, we can't put that into a test who's going to give us a positive result for blue. So we just, we didn't do the presumptive for hemidant. We just collected the swabs, released it, and let the lab test for biologicals later.
Okay, so they did not test positive for blood when the further testing was done?
No, we didn't do any testing for actual
Didn't do
blood.
any at all?
No.
Okay. But had you tested them further and they were not blood, you would have gotten a negative result, right? If you had tested.
Objection, form of question.
Well, I mean, sustained
I'm
form.
sorry, you just didn't test them, did you?
We couldn't test for the blood because it would have given us a positive result no matter what it did, because the Blue Star is blue itself.
And
So
still wouldn't admit that it was blood, would it?
we wouldn't be able to tell because the Blue Star is blue and hemidant gives you a blue reaction for positive. So if we had put the Blue Star in the test reagent itself, it's still going to be blue. So we're not going to know if it tested positive or negative because of the original blue.
Okay, I see. Everyone, John?
Sure. Anything else?
Briefly, the Blue Star is just a presumptive test for blood, is that correct?
Yes, it is used as a latent presumptive test for blood.
So if it illuminates blue, it doesn't necessarily mean it's blood, but it's something that you want to swab so that later DNA testing can occur?
Yes, because the Blue Star is like any other latent blood reagent. It tests positive with other things. It just depends on which chemical it is you're looking for or which one you're using, sorry.
So for whatever reason, when it illuminates blue, you then take a swab so that somebody later down the road can determine if DNA or anything else can be recovered.
That's right.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Officer. Mr. Undone.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's about 5 after 11. Why don't we take the morning? Who's your next witness?
Detective Brad Richard,
I assume he'll be on a while.
probably somewhere.
Okay. All right. Well, it's doesn't look like we have a short witness, so why don't we just take the morning break for about 15 minutes? Don't discuss the case among yourselves. Keep an open mind. Don't form or express any opinion about the guilt or innocence of the defendant or any matter in controversy. Leave your notes in your chair. Come on back in about 15 minutes, and we'll proceed on at that time. Thank you.